Well, so one thing that we're already kind of seeing here is just one, super tuned out, right? Now, I'm not saying that these dogs, don't have training or don't understand what the commands are, but we're seeing very clearly these are dogs that when they feel physical pressure, they tend to brace up a lot, right? I'm popping on these prong collars pretty hard, and all it's making them want to do is go forward more and more. And this is why I talk a lot about, one, the idea of the prong collar being an intermediate tool for a lot of dogs, right? So I don't use it to finish dogs because most dogs just don't care enough about it, right? Because they're used to feeling that physical restraint, whether it's through, a leash and collar or a harness or whatever it may be, and feeling that restraint and it just meaning digging into it and getting towards things they want to get to, right? In addition to that, we're seeing with the e-collar here, let's come to a stop and look at this. So let's look at Bailey, for example, here, right? So this is a mini educator. This is an e-collar that I commonly use with 90% of dogs that I train with here. And this e-collar has 100 levels, and most dogs work relatively low on it. Now, this e-collar right now is set to high. This is set all the way up at 100. Watch this dog, and I'm gonna tap the button here. You ready? You see that response? So obviously responding to it, but we're in a low arousal situation right now. There's not a whole lot of stuff going on. So the problem is physical tools like this, things that are physically doing things to the dog, aren't that motivating to this dog, right? And because of that, when you start running into those situations where they get really aroused, overly aroused and stuff like that, it's only going to gain you so much leverage. So I talk a lot about the idea of dogs being either physically or mentally dominant. So basically what I mean by that is if you have a dog that's physically dominant, like what I would consider this dog to be, physical things, prong collars, e-collars, things that are physically doing something to the dog are not very motivating, right? Now a mentally dominant dog, it would be essentially the opposite, right? That's a dog that tends to be a little bit more physically sensitive, where a tool like an e-collar or a prong or something can interrupt their fixation pretty easily, right? Now, when we're dealing with a physically dominant dog like this, a lot of times the only way to break that fixation, instead of doing something physical, you have to do something a little bit more psychological to them. So that's where I tend to like tools like pet correctors or bonkers or things like that a little bit more, because unfortunately, again, the physical things aren't working. So if you could startle them and tap into that psychological kind of effect a little bit more, you could tend to gain a lot more leverage. So again, these dogs aren't heeling terribly with me. They're just very forward, right? Their attention isn't where it needs to be. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take them back to the shop here. We're gonna take a look at where the socialization is at here. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna see if we can start to fix some of this stuff. See if we can get that attention a little bit better here. Now the first thing that we're looking for here is, one, I stripped them of the prong collars. Now there's a very particular reason why I did that here. A lot of times the prong collar, because it's just a physical restraint, can become a crutch, right? How many times do you see trainers or yourself taking your dog on your walk and constantly nagging them, heel, 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 heel? And though you may be able to physically shape that position relatively well, the dogs aren't having a true understanding of where they're supposed to be. So what I want to do is I want to make the leash essentially irrelevant, and I want these dogs sticking with me because I matter, I'm valuable. Notice I have attention on me right now, not like before where they were maintaining a relatively okay heel position, but they weren't paying attention. I need that attention on me to leverage when I see other distractions, when I see other things that are triggers on the walk. And I don't care about a heel right now. I'm staying completely loose on this leash. Again, I just care that these dogs care about me. I'm using a pet corrector right now, like we talked about on the walk before. I need a tool, that's gonna be psychologically a little bit more valuable in this case than the e-collar is gonna be. I need something that's gonna shift that attention away from things as opposed to just physically try to interrupt things and start to get into their head a little bit more to pay attention to me and reduce arousal. No. Now all I'm doing is every time they pass me right now, I'm marking with a no, I'm giving a spray with that pet corrector. No. Now to further prove how little this has to do with the tool, I took the e-collars off. I'm not even using them right now. Again, leashes on one finger here. They're sticking behind me comfortably, not because of a tool, but because I am valuable. Now, can you accomplish this with an e-collar with certain dogs? Absolutely, I do it all the time. We're very big fans of e-collars here. But you have to understand the science behind why is that dog understanding that those corrections that you're giving, those consequences are coming from you as opposed to just a remote or just, you know, clicking a button or whatever it may be. This is the missing link with 90% of reactive dogs that I work with, is that there's too much attention on the tools, not enough attention on why is the dog doing it in the first place, and how do we work backwards to get them socialized and get them in a place where they feel comfortable and confident following you.